Today the tractors came to Westminster, many, many hundreds of them, and they were really pretty noisy with their horns. They had pretty strong signs, you know, Starmer, the farmer harmer, and much else. And there were crowds of people there as well. And I have to say, it was noisy, but it was all very, very good-natured. Now, it wasn't just happening in Westminster, it was happening in other parts of the country too. I felt right from the start of this that if the Labour Party have roughly 100 members of Parliament for rural or semi-rural constituencies, and those margins by which they won are paper thin, which indeed they are, that maybe this campaign has a chance of winning, because if the farming community is able to galvanise properly, to get genuine public support behind it, and to go out repeatedly, peacefully, at least I think that, into market towns up and down the country where there are Labour MPs, I think concessions may well come, whatever the Prime Minister insists at PMQs today. So that's my debate this evening. Can the farmers win? Give me your thoughts on that, please. Farage@gbnews.com. I'm joined by Liz Webster, founder of Save British Farming, one of the organisers of today's protest, and Lloyd Russell-Moyle, former Labour MP, and Ranul Jawardena, former Environment Secretary. Liz, it was a big show today.
It was phenomenal, yeah. I feel very proud of the farming community and what we achieved today. And such a great feeling for farmers. Many were brought to tears. Just that feeling of camaraderie. We all work in isolation, so to all get together and express our feelings about the way we're being treated together has been absolutely uplifting, I think.
Now,
Emotional and uplifting.
Keir Starmer says there's nothing to worry about because nobody under £3 million of value is going to incur tax.
What you mean is, Nigel, Keir Starmer is continuing to insult our intelligence as farmers, but not only us, the accountants that work for us. Every farm has an accountant, and every accountant tells you what you're in for. And so Keir Starmer is insulting intelligent people across the country by lying.
Strong words. Now, there were protests today, I understand, in York, in Cardiff, I think. I'm not sure where else.
Felixstowe, yeah.
Felixstowe. But you take my point that for this to actually be effective, you've got to frighten those Labour MPs sitting in those constituencies with narrow majorities. Does the campaign have enough oomph to do that?
The whole idea of today was to tell farmers that we can do these carnivals and get attention, and they can be arranged pretty quickly, and they're actually good fun. As I said, they're good for our mental health. So we are encouraging farmers to collect, organise and go in all constituencies with Labour MPs, not just rural constituencies. I live in a rural area near Swindon. We will be doing a massive one in Swindon. We'll get all the local farmers together from neighbouring counties. There's 2 MPs in Swindon. We will hit Swindon and we'll get a lot of publicity, and those MPs will feel our heat.
And how long are you prepared to campaign on this for?
Look, Nigel, these farmers have been in farming for generations. Do you think they're going to give up in 5 minutes? No, this is the beginning, and it will ramp up. And I have promised farmers, and I've spoken to a lot of elderly farmers who, and it's really heartbreaking. Many farmers have worked very, very hard for very little, but always safe in the knowledge that the investment is in the farm. And this government are coming along and saying, we're going to steal your piggy bank. And not only your piggy bank, your children's future and your identity and everything else. So if somebody came and tried to steal what you've worked hard for, not just you, but your grandfathers and your forebearers, would you just say, yeah, come in and take it, come and steal that?
It's kind of the way of life more than the money, isn't it?
Yeah, it is our identity, but also our place in the country. And I think those voters, there's many, many voters, more British people understand that connection to the land, and they respect what we do and what we do for them. And when I spoke to one girl in London today, and she said to me, every time I fly into Britain, I feel such pride as I see the countryside and the greenery. So if we are forced off the land, Britain won't look like Britain. So this is what we're fighting for.
Well, no, it'll be bought up by American billionaires. Lloyd, this is, the argument that is being made by Liz here is actually one that's being heard all over the country. It's very, very emotional for people. And, when Starmer says it's 3 million, well, actually, it's not for most of them, is it? Do you think that maybe, just maybe, the Treasury have got their sums wrong on this?
I think the Treasury have got their sums wrong, but slightly different to how you're presenting it. I don't think that many will end up paying this tax, but I think they'll pay an awful lot to accountants who will have to move money around in special ways, and it will make their lives more difficult. And in the end, the Treasury, I don't think, will gain much money from this. And I think and it will have caused a lot of bad will. I think the big problem with this is not that it is one particular measure, but it is after decades of farmers protesting under Conservative governments, protesting, saying that we've been badly done by... And it is so tone deaf. I don't think that it is reversible, this particular policy. But what you might be able to do is put... immediately, everything is reversible in time, isn't it? But I do think that there should be pressure put to make sure that we address some of those other concerns the farming industry has had, to make sure that they are not continually being, being harmed. And I do think in the longer term, I don't think it's going to be this year, but in the longer term, a more nuanced inheritance tax scheme. That, for example, requires you to work the land. So if you own the land and then put it out into leaseholds, farmers, then you shouldn't get any tax rebate. But if you are the farmer that owns and works the land, the exemption would have been much fairer.
That's how we define a farmer, isn't it, I guess?
We do, but you should be thinking about food security here and food production, because it is a fact that we need food production to ensure that inflation doesn't go out of control, and also that we don't play into the hands of our enemies.
But the reason
you should be thinking about continual food production.
I totally agree. But the reason we're needing to do this is because swathes of land are being bought up, not really to farm them, not really to invest in them as farmers, but
you're enabling that, I'm afraid, by forcing closure and sell. And one of your MPs...
Lloyd does have a point here. Lloyd does have a point here. That actually there have been a lot of very wealthy people buying vast tracts of farmland. The problem with this policy is even more of them. And they're the giant American corporations. Ranald, tell you what interests me about this? We're having this debate, and it's a pretty furious debate. And it's a very, genuinely, people I spoke to today when I was there, they really feel that everything about themselves and their family and their history and their kids is under attack. There's no question about that. Here's the mystery. These tax changes affect other family businesses too, whether it's a small engineering factory or whatever it may be. I spoke to somebody in Essex the other day. Since 1860, they've had this particular little factory, specialist factory in the family, but nobody seems to be speaking up for small business. It's as if they're being ignored completely. Why?
Well, I think there are two things here. First, on the farmers, I think part of the fury is that people feel they were lied to because Labour said before the election, we're not going to bring these tax changes in, contrary to rumours, and then they did exactly what they said they weren't going to do. And that's why I think people are so furious about it. And I think the broader issue around business, I think over the last 30, 40 years, businesses have not wanted to comment on politics full stop. I sense that this is the beginning of a change where businesses of all shapes and sizes, small family businesses to bigger corporates, now are rediscovering their voice because they're seeing the impact of tax changes and the wider economy on their businesses, whether it's a retail business who is disproportionately affected by NI changes, through to, as you say, small family businesses affected by inheritance tax. I think people are rediscovering their voice, and I think that's a very good thing.
Well, actually, in a democracy, that's a good, healthy thing.
Exactly.
Final thought on this, and it's an important one. I made, in my earlier comments, the point that it was good-natured, noisy, legal, permissions had been granted. Everything was done beautifully. It wasn't a flash mob that closed down the streets. I didn't see any muck spreaders in tow going down Whitehall, but a lot of people in the crowd said to me today, Nigel, do you think we should be more like the French? Put up blockades, create mess. And I don't know how you feel about this, Liz, how militant this lobby needs to get. But I don't know. I think the way you're doing it at the moment is right. Or do you think there are elements of the farming community that are going to take this further?
I don't think we need to be like the French, to be fair.
Thank goodness.
And we're not like the French. And we had a great time speaking to a lot of the police who actually thanked us for doing what we're doing. And that made us feel very warm and comfortable in that zone, because what we're looking to do is to campaign to get support. We don't want to lose those feelings of voting. So that's why taking tractors into towns and cities, instead of doing it in a rural area, it's not, you're not excited to see a tractor in a rural town, but in a city or a metropolitan place you are. And that is going to be our strategy, that we just bring a carnival and we say, and the children wave at us and they enjoy that. And there's been lots of farming programmes as well, which have helped to boost those images.
Not least of all, Jeremy Clarkson, to be fair. No, but to be fair, whether you like him or not.
I really admire Jeremy's farming programme, because he's taken farming to people's living rooms and explained the problems very, very well. So we will continue to do that, and I don't think we need to do any more than that.
And we will continue to cover this on this show.
Thank you.